Welcome to the Bronco Talk Show. I'm your host, Nick Wade, here with Sam Gillette of Sam Talk Sports as we get you set for the Blue Collar Classic and a look back on a tough road swing. And today we've got a Boise State softball great joining us, Mykenzie Hanna, second all-time with 51 home runs, third with 149 ribbies, second with 173 runs scored, and top 5 in career doubles, and one of the most complete hitters and outfielders to ever wear the blue and orange. Mykenzie, thanks for joining us. How is life going for you?
Hi guys, it's pretty good. Just working and coaching. That's it.
Well, Mykenzie, you left Boise State as one of the most decorated players in program history, second all time with 51 home runs, as I said, third with 149 RBIs, and second with 173 runs scored. When you look back on it, what part of your offensive game grew the most over your 4 years at Boise State?
I would say that my ability to be okay with failure and learn from my failures. And I think the confidence as I grew older really helped with that too.
You were a 2-time NFCA All-Region pick and back-to-back All-Mountain West second team. At what point in your career did you feel yourself becoming one of the conference's most complete hitters?
I don't really think I've thought about it like that. I just try to go out every game and compete and be with my teammates.
And I'm kind of biased. I think those should have been first team Mountain West team.
You said it.
I did say it, and I'll say it till the cows come home. But last season, your senior season was historic, 70 runs, top 5 nationally in runs per game. You got plunked a lot. You had 18 home runs, 53 ribbies, and perfect on the base paths. What clicked for you that allowed you for everything to come together at once last year?
I feel like when I was focused on having fun and being in the present with my teammates, it helped a lot with it all coming together, because once I was having fun, I wasn't really thinking about like if I got a bad hit. No matter what, my teammates went and lifted me up. So yeah, I think just having fun really helped put everything together.
You set Boise State's single season and career records for hit by pitch and outfield assists. How much pride do you take in the toughness and defensive instincts that those numbers represent?
I take a lot of pride in that. I feel that my senior season was probably my best season with fielding. I just felt like I had a lot of confidence in the outfield, and I just had a strong infield to help me out too. They were super loud. They were super awesome. So I feel having the confidence in them being able to know where I'm going with the next play or whatever happened.
Did you ever have any of those hit by pitches? You know that the pitcher was gunning for you, or was it all pretty harmless?
One time I felt like they were, but I really just think that she released the ball wrong. But hit by pitches, I mean, I did stand on the line, so it was bound to happen.
And that had to have been after Taylor left the program, because, she would have had your back.
Oh, yeah. It would have been charging.
Yeah. So you did become the first non-Power 5 player since 2015 to put up at least 70 runs, 50 RBIs, and then 50 walks and plunks, 15 homers and 10 steals in a season. Did you even realize that was going on, and do you know how rare that is?
Absolutely not. I did not know that was going on. I felt like every time I focused on my stats, it would send me into like a rabbit hole of like checking all the time and only worrying about my stats. So being able to be focused on being a good teammate and being there for my team honestly, my team probably had a lot to do with that too, just giving me the confidence even when I was down on myself.
You were also a 3-time academic All-Mountain West and 2-time scholar athlete. How did you balance that elite production on the field with that same level of consistency in the classroom?
I would definitely try to get all my work done before we would leave for like away trips. Would it always happen? No, but I always tried to do my work beforehand so that I could work and only focus on softball. So that it really helped me setting a deadline on getting everything in beforehand.
So we've entered this really crazy landscape in college athletics with the NIL and the transfer portal. Something I never would have thought would have affected the softball program. But so you had a front row seat in the growth of this program as a 4-year starting Boise State softball player. This offseason brought major turnover both on the roster and the coaching staff. As someone who helped define the standard here at Boise State, what was your reaction when in seeing so many changes all at once, and how do you think that affects the program's identity moving forward?
I honestly think change is a good thing. So being able, it's good for the program, it's good for the girls, it's honestly good for everyone most of the time. I think that it can help the girls be flexible with change that they might not be used to having. And for the cultural standpoint, I think that it's really on the girls to help the coaches learn the culture that they have around, especially since they've built it, especially Holly being there for 4 years and like Romo and all of them being able to teach the coaches what the standards have been since they've been freshmen.
Even with that standard, you still get several high impact players that leave through the transfer portal, big bats, key defenders, leaders. Moving on, from a former player's point of view, how do you feel the portal is reshaping mid-major programs like Boise State, and is it ultimately helping or hurting college softball?
I feel like the transfer portal can definitely be a good thing in some cases, especially if somebody's not having a good time where they're at and they want to transfer closer to home to be with people that they want to be with. I feel like can be a really good thing for that person. But transferring school to school just for NIL deals or more money can be abusing the system.
You played under a staff that built a strong culture. There was minimal moves with them, and now we're seeing new faces step into major roles. What do you think are the biggest challenges for a program when multiple coaches move on in the same offseason? I mean, you're a coach now, and so you know kind of like the continuity. I mean, you're stepping into a strange place to you. So how important is that cultural continuity when new coaches arrive? Like, and you talked about Holly and Sophia there to teach the new coaches.
Mm-hmm. So first, I want to shout out the new coaches. They seem awesome, and I wish them a great season. But from my personal experience, I came into Boise State with a full new staff as well. I didn't play for the old staff, but being recruited from them and knowing them and then coming into a full new staff was very challenging. But I think it worked in my favor, and being able to have new coaches can also work in the girls' favor as well. So I think having the same love, like the coaches having the same love for the program as the girls too.
And you kind of made it easy for those new coaches coming in with the talent that you had and just delivering with that performance. I'm sure it was a real good welcoming for for those coaches to have such a great talent to climb
Mhm.
on board.
The program lost a massive chunk of offense and defense production from last season. Players you played alongside, based on what you've seen from the early road trip with the huge wins over top 10 opponents, uh, who do you think is stepping up the quickest, and what traits do you look for in players filling those kinds of roles?
Again, I think Holly being a senior, she's really stepping up um, as a person, as a player. And Skylar, I've seen stepping up in the preseason, having really, really good preseason. Um, I think looking for traits, um, stepping up into those roles can be very difficult for somebody. And the traits that I look for is somebody who's always going to be a good teammate, who's always going to give you a high five, even if they're mad at themselves, or who's going to lift you up. So,
And there aren't a lot of returning players. I know there was a massive turnover from transferring, and then graduates like you and Pettis and others. There, aside from Farmer and Hughes and Sutherland, you have like Sophie Sophia Romero and some of the other freshmen from last year who had limited time. Who do you, of those freshmen that didn't get a lot of playing time because of the veterans from last year? Who do you hope excels in 2026 and emerges just like Skylar is?
first, I hope everyone exceeds and excels this season. But I think Kaylee is doing awesome as well. I hope she really, really succeeds out in the outfield. And Chloe's doing awesome right now. So I feel like I want everyone to succeed first of all, but if I had to choose people.
All right, before we dive into the Blue Collar Classic, a 4-day stretch where Boise State will take on Cal Baptist, Portland State, Weber State, and St. Thomas in a packed 6-game run. Let's break down exactly where this team stands heading into the weekend. We've got a brand new roster, a very different offensive identity from last season, and pitching numbers that tell a story of both potential and growing pains. So before the Broncos step onto the field, onto their home field with some of the toughest early season tests behind them, let's take a closer look at what the numbers say, where the lineup is trending, how the pitching staff is handling the load, and what all of it means as we preview the season before this year's Blue Collar Classic. Uh, 2025 to 2026 numbers. At this point in 2025, the team was 15-5 before the Blue Collar Classic. They're 9-12, but that's a little misleading because they've taken down some good competition when Ole Miss and Stanford. So uh, we'll get into that. But the tell of the tale is 113 hits last year to 141 this year. The bats for being heating up early on. They've kind of cooled off a little. Um, them late game heroics are need to be more heroic. But home run production has also fallen off by about 20, and the RBIs 177 last year to 90 this year. But that's indicative of a very young team growing into their role, and if they can stay together, oh my God, can they be great? Last year, pitching staff only had 79 Ks at this point. We're at 108 right now with arguably tougher competition. So uh, I see a lot of bright potential here. We've got returning totals from 2025. You got Quinn Sutherland's back, Skylar Stroh's back, uh, Chloe Hughes, Holly Farmer, Kaylee, uh, Sophia, Talia. They're all back. Um, and leading the way, I should say, Sutherland has 44 hits last year, 20 this year. So her bat's a little down, but she's still leading the team. Her and both Skylar Stroh as well. Then you have for this year, you've got new Marissa Gonzalez, 14 hits. Maya Flint at 16 hits and leading with 4 home runs. Uh, so I mean, we've got some hitters. We've got the potential to have the power hitters there. It's just a really young team. The ones that are returning, the bats haven't been as hot, but the competition has also been arguably better.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Kenzie. You know firsthand how much firepower the program had last season with players like Sophia Knight batting 486, 27 stolen bases, Mac Butt, 22 home runs, 77 RBIs, both of them moving on to Tennessee. That's a massive amount of production gone. From your perspective, how tough is it for an offense to replace stars at that level?
I mean, it's definitely tough, but you really have to have trust in Schultz and his recruiting process. Like, obviously, Maya's doing very, very well with the home runs already. So he's getting there and finding those missing pieces.
And then looking back at players like Sydney Groves, she had 336, 14 home runs, 45 RBI. Moving on to Idaho State and Leah McAnally, she batted 311, 6 home runs, 39 RBIs. They're a catcher. She left as well to Iowa. That's basically the entire middle of the lineup. As someone who was part of that offensive core, what's your take on how big an adjustment it is for a team when that many run producers leave at once? I mean, you came in as a freshman and you took off as one of the power hitters. What do you think that's like?
I think it's definitely difficult, especially maybe a little bit frustrating. But as we were talking about earlier, Marissa and Maya, and I'm pretty sure Kate's doing pretty well too in those recruits from Schultz. Some of the transfers are filling those roles, and Skylar as well. So
When you review early season splits like these, especially you got Quinn Sutherland. She's actually getting on base. Her on base percentage is better this year than last year at this point. Last year, she was at a .398. This year, she's at .433. So improvement there. Stroh's at a 354 this year. She was at a 294 last year. So, I mean, there's improvement from the ones that are coming back. But you look at the splits like these, what are the biggest indicators you look for to see whether an offense is ahead, behind, or right on schedule compared to previous years?
I feel like they're pretty on time. Be like switching the lineup is he's trying to figure out what's working and who works best together. So it can be hard when the lineup changes like almost every other game or every game. So them trying to find a groove, I feel like that they're pretty on time.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting here looking at all the on base percentage. It looks like everybody's improved that is returning. So that bodes well for the coaching staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And development. As we mentioned, there's little returning production going into 2026. Practically a full offensive reset. Last year, the returning players brought a massive chunk of power, on base percentage, and run creation. This season, the slate is almost clean, aside from the guys or gals we've mentioned earlier. What impact, Kenzie? What impact does that have on the flow of an offense this early?
I think it can have an impact, especially when not understanding who you think is going to be your power hitter in a sense, or who's going to be in the middle of the lineup and who is going to get on for them. It's very, very trial and error at this point, and I think that's what he's trying to figure out.
Yeah. Nick, last year the returning production had seven home runs hit the entirety of last year coming into the Blue Collar Classic. This year, 2, 4, 5, 9, 11, 14. 14. Does it change your expectations for what this group can realistically be by the time we get into the Mountain West schedule, knowing that those bats can get that hot?
Yeah, no, I come into this, my expectations are that, hey, this is a young team, right? So as Mykenzie was saying, I've noticed that coaches, he's working that lineup, trying to find the best, the best parts in that, uh, and to start the season off, he kind of was starting off kind of like last year, having that power hitter right up front of the lineup, but I've watched him kind of shift things around. And as Skylar Stroh has emerged, and also Maya Flint, he's been kind of tinkering along the lineup with them. So I have really good expectations for this team. I think that they have a good foundation of a tough road schedule to start off this season, and I have I think the expectation that I'll probably have is it's a young team. I want to see what they're going to build during the second half of this non-con schedule, and then leading into the Mountain West schedule. So I'm pretty my optimism is pretty high with what I've seen so far, and and while I'm at it, I really was impressed by seeing Ashley Lofton Hernandez get some more playing time. She did really well in the first two tournaments. She was batting over 300, and then so that's I'm looking forward to seeing her back at the plate when they come home.
When you contrast all that with 2026 early output, how much of that do you think is a gap of star power leaving versus just new players still trying to find their footing?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good sized gap with that much production leaving, and then coming in with some transfer players along with a very young team filled with sophomores and freshmen. So I think it's as I said, time will tell on how they build this thing out with those young players finding their footing, but they do need to find they do need those stars to kind of emerge so that there is some sense of familiarity with the lineup, knowing even as a fan, I knew last year when Kenzie would get up to the plate and there's somebody on base, I knew the odds of the team scoring was really high. Or with the Sophia Knight getting up to bat, I knew that she's batting like 486. I knew that half the time that she was up at the plate, good chance she's getting on base. So I'm just looking forward to the newcomers and the young returners to get their footing and emerge and become that star power that they need.
In 2025, the offense was very top heavy. 3 or 4 players carried most of the production, but the early 2026 numbers feel more spread out with several new names hitting above 360, but without one dominant force yet. Kenzie, from your experience, is it harder or easier for a lineup to function when production is balanced like this rather than having clear stars?
I feel like even last year our lineup was pretty balanced, especially with the girls who were even like in 7, 8, 9. They would get on for Sophia to hit them in, and me or Mac or Pettis, whoever was in. But I felt like it was a little easier to have a little bit of a top heavy, but being able to work out those kinks and how they've been competing with the big schools this year. So I feel like their lineup being balanced is pretty good for them.
And at the Easton Classic, we saw newcomers like Mia Flint, Kate Penberthy, and Quinn Sutherland, who's in her sophomore season. They all hit above 360. They were driving in runs like crazy. From your experience, how telling are those early season performances? And what do you look for to know whether they'll hold up?
I feel like when I had a good preseason, it always helped me go into conference and other games very, very confident. I felt like from my personal experience, if I had a bad preseason, I would always get down on myself, and it would kind of roll into home games and conference. So I feel that they will keep it up because they are amazing hitters, and yeah.
If you were projecting 2026 this season, given how much home run and RBI firepower graduated or transferred out last year, Blue Collar Classic, 213 home runs. This year, 141. RBIs 177 to 90. Do you think this offense has to redefine what success looks like?
Not at all. I feel like they are pretty successful especially with who they've been seeing recently. They have been hitting the ball hard. They're just right at people. So I feel that they're in a pretty good spot.
Last year's success meant scoring in bunches and hitting the long ball. This year kind of feels like it's more about contact rate, small ball, creating chaos on the bases, getting on base. Do you agree with that?
I do. I feel like last year we relied a little bit too much on the long ball if we were having a hard time getting on base. Even me, it was like I felt like I had to be the person to hit the home run instead of just getting on base. So I feel like relying on being able to hit contact and getting on base can lead into a snowball effect of hits and hits and hits and hits.
Yeah. Last year, talking about home runs, only 34 before the Blue Collar Classic, and only 14 this year. So there is that. Feels like there's that shift there. Not you don't have as many of the power hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And of those changes between last season and this year, which trends in 2026 give you confidence versus concern heading into Mountain West play?
Me seeing them be able to put the bat on the ball. They're hitting gaps, they're hitting the ball hard, and even if it's right at somebody, at some point that ball is going to fall. As we like to say, the ball is always going to find a hole, always going to fall out of somebody's glove when it's needed the most. So
Yeah. We've talked a lot about offense, Nick. Strikeouts have been up 79 to 108 this year, but so is errors, 51 to 19. And you can have great on base percentages, but if you can't get the defensive end done, you allow for more runs to be scored against you. What are your thoughts on the defensive side, and then heading into Mountain West play? What gives you confidence versus concern?
Yeah, I think the discrepancy between last season and this season, I can understand it. It's a younger group. Also, I think Coach Schultz did a heck of a job in scheduling this season. Not that he didn't last season, but it gave them the opportunity to take down two top 15 teams, which is very impressive for such a young squad. But yeah, I mean, I think anybody would be concerned about the errors, and I think that's just a product of just a young squad, and a team, trying to gel together and get their footing with each other, and building confidence with each other, and getting that cohesiveness as a group. You always have to have San Diego State as a concern going into Mountain West play. They're already like just outside of the top ranks of the Power Four. That right now they're towards the top in the group of five right now, and that that's should always be a concern for Boise State, because that's one of their main rivals, as we've seen in the last couple of years.
All right. Looking at 2025, like we've been back and forth with it. 2025 versus 2026 pre-Blue Collar Classic totals. You expect this team to close the gaps as the season goes on? Nick and Kenzie, I'd like to get both your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think if you had asked Coach Schultz about what he considers a power team, he considers doubles as part of that power statistic, and I'm really optimistic on what I've seen as far as the doubles and just that aspect, and versus the competition that they've played in the here early in the road stretch. So and they had 84 home runs last year, one of the top in the Mountain West, and still you gotta always talk about San Diego State. They're not necessarily a power team, but they know how to win. So I think for me, something that would be reasonable for me is, even if they don't hit those power numbers like we've been accustomed to, just to get those extra base hits and become very proficient in their own unique identity this year. And I think if they do that, I think they have the talent they showed against Ole Miss and Stanford, that they can play up to San Diego State and the rest of those rivals in the Mountain West.
Yeah, you mentioned doubles, 34 last year, 31 this year, so they're right there.
I agree with Nick.
I knew that was coming. Okay, Kenzie, based on that comparison, what's a reasonable estimate for their overall offensive production by season's end, specifically in conference play?
I think that they'll have a pretty good offensive production. They've been getting on. They're going to find a hole somewhere in the field at least. So I feel like it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. And Kenzie, let's finish with this. By the time we get to late April, what do you think this offense will look like statistically compared to 2025?
I honestly hope that they excel 2025, because I wish so much luck on all these girls, and I hope that they excel every single thing from 2025.
Yeah. And Nick, are we headed for a team that scores fewer runs but plays cleaner, more efficient softball? Or do you think someone in this 2026 group has the chance to emerge as a true middle of the order force and close the gap more than people expect?
I think I don't, realistically, I don't see him matching the 84 bombs that they posted last season, but I do think that they're going to find their own identity, and what Coach Schultz is, the stat that he looks at as powerful. I do think that they will excel in doubles and other aspects of the offense. They do have a, just from the sample that we've seen, they can score. I mean, they just set a record for runs in one inning against Cal Northridge. So definitely they have the potential to do that. So, I think that they may have even more runs, but I do think that production, they lost a lot of firepower, but that's all right. I do see there's about a 3 to 4 people that could, step up into that powerhouse slugger that they've lost. So, but my questions for Kenzie, from what you've seen so far, who looks the most ready to fulfill the role that you filled in the batting order of being consistently hitting that long ball and driving in those runs?
I feel that with the power that I've seen out of Maya recently, she has a pretty good chance of fulfilling that role. I already start to see it. She's super strong and super powerful. So yeah.
All right, let's move right along. We talked a little bit earlier, Nick, pitching and the defense. Let's talk about. I really want to dive into this real quick. 19 errors, 2025, 51, 2026 pre Blue Collar Classic. And you have a 15-5 record versus a 9-12 record. I'm going to go off script a little bit. Do you think that that error discrepancy, if it was maybe flipped, especially with the historic wins the team has had this year, if there's only 19 errors 2026, how many more games are in the win column?
Oh, yeah. It would be a lot better than 9-12, that's for sure. I know that in some of those earlier games that they lost, they could have actually in the beginning they probably could have went 5-6-0. But there were a lot of errors, and I mean, I just remember that clip that we had of Mykenzie in the beginning where she made that nice grab over the wall. It's not like that this year. You've got you have position changes. Sutherland went from second base to center field, and Stroh's at second now. So a lot of growing pains. But yeah, I think if they had 19 errors right now, their record would be a hell of a lot better, and we'd probably be going, hey, this is a slam dunk regional team,
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have a lot of work to do based on what I've seen early on in the season. But to give them credit, they're going against some of these Power 4 teams that are not knocking the snot out of the ball at them. So like, freshmen out there and sophomores out there that are, haven't had a lot of experience. It's like they're out there getting pummeled by darts. So I completely understand how, that can happen, but that is quite high, 54 errors. So there's only a lot of room to improve on it. And I think they'll do that.
Yeah. Last year's ERA 415. This year 474. From your standpoint, Nick, what does that tell you about the state of this pitching and defense combination early 2026?
As far as the pitching, it's really close. I mean, that's not too far off. 4.15, 4.74. I do think that there's if you look at Jules' record right now, she's sitting at 2-7. Realistically, she got put in there in some pretty tough situations when the other team was just rolling, throwing the ace there, and she just did the best that she could do to calm that down, and and a lot of those losses she picked up here early is like, it's basically kind of like it's a conglomerate of what happened as the team. But she also had a nice complete game shutout So those are the tales of tapes, and she's throwing flames from the circle when she's a starter. She's doing really good for that. I believe she's a rise ball pitcher, kind of like Caudell. So she really reminds me a lot of Taylor Caudell. So, but yeah, those first two invitationals, the freshmen were lights out. They were great. Charlie Duran got Mountain West Freshman of the Week, and those first two invitationals, the freshmen came out of there with a clean record. But then when they came into this last one against some really, really tough competition, really good programs, their freshman colors came out. But I do think that overall they've done excellent. That's why I'm saying like that 415 to 474 on paper. Yeah, it looks like it's elevated, but knowing the circumstances, I think they did really well.
All right. Nick, you may mention younger pitching staff. They've actually pitched like 10 more innings this year. They've only given up 18 more runs, but they're right there on doubles, 19 and 19, 5 more triples, but 3 less home runs than last year. So there's really ups and downs, big improvements, big deficits to the pitching staff. Most notably, Kenzie, 51 errors. As a hitter, you face pitchers dealing with shaky defenses behind them. When a team has 51 errors this early, how does that impact the pitcher you're seeing in the box?
I feel like it can make her feel a little scared to, scared because her defense isn't going to back her up, and she feels like she has to do everything herself. So she might be a little bit more tentative on like the pitches she's throwing, or feels like she has to strike everybody out because she feels like her defense isn't going to back her up.
Do they pitch differently knowing that any ball put in play could turn into extra bases?
I feel so. Sometimes I feel like they can get a little bit more wild, or they don't have as much spin on the ball because they're too worried about other things instead of just pitching their game.
Yeah, and getting wild may be why their numbers are a little bit better this year.
Yeah.
Need to play a wild thing whenever pitchers come out now. Nick, you see a defense giving up that many extra chances. It puts an enormous amount of pressure on the pitchers, more batters, more stressful innings, more pitches. What have you noticed in terms of how this pitching staff is handling that load? Does it look like they're adjusting, or does the instability behind them seem to be affecting their approach?
Yeah, it reminds me of we had Taylor Caudell on one of our Bronco talks, and she focused a lot about the mental game of this. And what really helps is knowing that your defense is solid. So she had Bummy back behind her, and Flores and Bennett at third, and so those kind of things matter to a pitcher, knowing that with the bases loaded, you can pitch your game and know that the defense has your back. Not that, and it's not a slight on what this team's doing. Like I said, they're young, and they have had a couple games here early on where they did have a bases loaded, and Charlie Duran was able to strike him out. They've made key defensive plays to seal the game against Ole Miss, a throw from first to third to tag the runner out. So there are glimpses of that, but that is going to be really key and important as the season goes on for those pitchers to feel comfortable. So the mental game is there, so they can just they can just rear back and throw that heat or whatever, throw their off speeds and not have to second guess that kind of stuff and just have full confidence. And I think as the season continues to grow, there's a lot of games left. That there's a lot of opportunities to build that confidence up. I doubt they're really even thinking about the 51 errors right now. I feel like coaches probably already addressed those things and they cover those looking ahead to the next opponent. And so, but it is very important for their success in the circle.
And you've made mention several times that young team, new transfers in. A lot of those errors could just be them learning to play and trust each other, or trying to overexert to prove a point. And I think once they get settled in, like they're starting to do now, and closer we get to conference play, this could be a team that makes a run for the Mountain West Championship and regionals.
Hope so.
Mykenzie, from an offensive game planning perspective, when you know a defense is struggling and prone to errors on a scale like this compared to previous years, does that change your approach? Are you still thinking of dinging them out of the park, or do you focus more on putting it in play, getting the extra bases, and setting your lineup knowing that you have a better chance of getting more on base, so you put your big hitters maybe a little bit further down to get the more bang for your buck? How does that kind of play in the game planning perspective?
All of the above.
All right.
I feel like when a defense is struggling and that our team knows that a defense is struggling, it's like, just put the ball in play. Let them make the mistakes. Put the pressure on the defense. Yes, I always want to hit home runs. Everyone always wants to hit a home run, but especially when a defense is struggling, it kind of puts less pressure on you in a sense in the box, knowing, hey, if I do hit a little dribbler, she might overthrow it, she might miss it based on the errors.
Nick, based on the numbers we've seen so far and the film from early road swing, was it 22 games, 21, 22 games, something like that? What parts of the pitching and defensive struggles feel like early season rust, and what parts feel like real issues this team will need to address quickly before conference play? Or like I mentioned earlier, just the team learning to play with each other in competition. You can practice all you want all together, but everybody knows everything changes when you actually get into a game set.
Yeah, I think early on, and I talked to Coach Schultz about this, both Jules and Liv, from that very first tournament that they played in, heading into their sophomore seasons, a little bit of rust, but they, he was impressed that they worked their way through that. But since then, they've been filling those shoes that they had last year, of being the arms that they really can depend on. But I have really good confidence in that. Would like to see what Shannon Keegren can bring to the plate. Still haven't seen a lot from her, but I feel like she's probably the save specialist. But I really do when she's in. I like the stuff that she brings from the circle. But based on just the dependability from Julianne Rose and Olivia Bauer, really happy with that. Really optimistic about the other three freshmen, Charlie Duran, Lula Ray, and Cody Crabtree. especially Lula Ray. I think she's going to be a big star in the circle. She can also hit, which is pretty awesome. I love seeing that dual threat. But I do think the first thing that they need to improve to stabilize the group is like we said, for those pitchers that have confidence in the defense behind them, so they can just be themselves and just play their own game and have that be really sound in their mental game.
All right. Kenzie, I'm going to kind of ask you that same question Nick ended on. What's the first thing that you think has to improve to stabilize the group?
I feel like probably a mental game, just figuring out how to push through, get a few more runs, push through to get along with each other, even when you guys aren't doing well, in a sense. Being able to still push each other and want the best for each other, I think is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Well, Kenzie, thank you for joining us for the show. What do you got going on this spring, or do you have anything you'd like to shout out?
I am a high school coach, so I will be playing games. So shout out to my team. I coach for Bishop Kelly, JV. Come out and see us.
National champions in the making.
Boom.
And finally, Kenzie, I asked this of all of our guests. You're a loyal Bronco. You were here for four years. You're gonna go down in history as one of the program greats. What kind of a message do you want to send to Bronco Nation before we close the show?
Once a Bronco, always a Bronco. That's it.
Right on. And you can say that you were a 4-year starter, and you could have easily grabbed a bag or whatever, but you know what? You made Boise State proud on and off the field. So huge thank you to Mykenzie Hanna for joining us and bringing her insight, her experience, and honest perspective to this Blue Collar Classic preview. Whether it's breaking down offensive identity, talking through the challenges of a roster turnover, or giving us a hitter's view on the pitching and defensive numbers, Kenzie continues to show why she's one of the most respected Broncos ever to wear the blue and orange. And a big thanks to Sam Gillette from Sam Talk Sports for helping guide today's conversation and providing sharp analysis, thoughtful context, and the kind of detailed breakdowns Bronco Nation can always count on. To all our viewers, thank you for tuning in and supporting the athletes, alumni, and stories that make Boise State softball special. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the show, share it with other Broncos, and stay locked in as we bring you more in-depth coverage all season long, especially as we head toward the Blue Collar Classic. For Sam Gillette, Mykenzie Hanna, and everyone here at Bronco Talk, I'm Nick Wade. We'll see you next time. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Blue Elevation Elevating, Bronco sports through fans like you. Every donation fuels Boise State athletics, scholarships, and community projects, helping student athletes reach championship levels. With over $13,000 raised, Blue Elevation is Boise State's #1 crowdsourcing outlet. Join the movement, elevate the Broncos, and make every gift count. Visit blueelevation.org to elevate Boise State to the next level.